Hi, my name is Sam Day. I'm Associate Director of Relationship Management at Johns Hopkins University and Medicine. In my day job, I translate data for a complex group of customers in development and alumni relations. I also hold a degree in art history. Thank you for joining me for this Apra Byte, Data Visualization Design Basics. You may be asking yourself, why would I be interested in creating a data visualization? According to a University of Minnesota study, presentations that include visual aids were 43% more effective at persuading their audiences to take a desired course of action. A similar Wharton School of Business study found that the use of data visualization could shorten business meetings by 24%. What is data visualization? The graphic or visual representation of your data. Your goal is likely to tell a story, understand trends, outliers, or patterns in your information. One example I think of often is the USDA food guidelines. There have been several versions over the years and changing guidelines. You can see a small bit of the evolution in these three visualizations. You'll notice in the 1984 graphic, it's loud, a bit cluttered, and difficult to read. The middle 1992 pyramid is a bit more streamlined and has great visual representations of foods for each of these food groups. The 2005 visualization applies the fundamentals of a pie chart to be creative in telling their story. In this Apra Byte, we're going to discuss design basics, your goal for your visualization, your audience, some tools you may utilize, chart and graph types. We'll talk about color and balance, which are important in a visualization, and I'll share some resources with you. The foundation of any data visualization is your data. I don't want to overlook that. As you're probably already aware, you may need to collect data or clean your existing data before you start. That's totally expected. You may even find that it's helpful to leave those data gaps present and highlight where data maintenance is needed. An example, if, say, you're analyzing a gift officer's portfolio and want them to fill in data gaps, like the inclination or readiness to give a gift to this campaign, you can use a visualization to alert them to the data cleanup needed. Before you start designing, consider your goal. What's the business need or the question you're trying to answer? This might require a high-level perspective, it might be granular, or it might be a combination where you're creating a visualization that shows both the high and the granular perspectives. You might be looking at counts, trends, correlations. One of your goals should be to make your complex data set easy to understand and actionable. You want to clearly communicate your story without overwhelming your audience. Speaking of audience, what do you know about your intended audience? Are they a busy development director who only has 5 minutes with you? Is it a presentation to a group of gift officers that you want to act on? Maybe you're reviewing specific data elements during a strategy session. Think about your tone. Is this conversation meant to deliver tough information? Are you pointing out progress towards a goal? Are you celebrating successes? Make sure you're speaking their language. Don't use abbreviations or terminology they may not know. Put yourself in their shoes. Define terms if needed, but don't go overboard. Let's talk quickly about tools that you have in your toolkit. My recommendation, especially if you're just starting out, is to utilize Excel. It's accessible. It has features to help you design your charts and graphs. And even the most recent version has complex mapping features to help you visualize your data. There are also advanced tools like Tableau, Power BI, and other infographic software programs that you may choose to utilize. They often require a certain level of resources or money. Let's talk about the types of data visualizations and examples of when you might want to use them. This isn't an exhaustive list, but it will help you get started. Are you looking to compare values? Maybe a bar graph, which is one of the most common graphs and charts, gives a quick comparison of data across categories. It can show you trends and outliers, highlight variances, or here on the right, you'll see a map. I'm showing prospect concentrations in a local area of Maryland, DC, and Virginia, where a majority of my gift officer's prospects are located. This gives her a sense of geographic concentrations within her portfolio. Do you want to show the composition of something or parts of a whole? A pie graph or a stacked bar chart might be helpful. Here in this example, I'm showing those physicians that this medical development team is partnering with. 23 of these physicians provided donor referrals, while 88 have not. Do you want to understand the relationship between values? You might use a scatter plot or a line graph. When designing a visualization, you want to think about principles like color. We have a psychological understanding of color that can help inform our visualizations. Use those colors to your advantage to tell a story. For example, red is often associated with excitement, love, urgency, or the action of stopping, in the case of a stop sign. Green is often associated with nature, healing, growth, or money. Blue is often reflective of trust or peace. White may be seen as clean or minimalistic. These are all things you may want to consider as you're designing. Another element of color is color theory. Think about what colors may work well together. For example, orange and blue are complementary and are opposite each other on the color wheel. Colors that are side by side on the color wheel are also visually appealing. Along with color, it's important to consider balance when designing a visualization. Do you have enough white or negative space? Does that space help draw the viewer's eye to the important elements of your visualization? Use your text intentionally. Where is it going to make the biggest impact? You'll also want to be minimal. You don't want to introduce large paragraphs of text into a visualization. Above all else, you should always be looking from the lens of readability. Practice makes perfect. You may not be a data visualization rock star right out the gate, but you'll get more comfortable with these concepts as you go. Here's an example of a data visualization that's okay, but we can do better. Here we're trying to show the gift officer activity after a referral was received by a physician. Each gift officer is represented by a different color bar within the bar chart. My grid lines are a bit excessive and there isn't much balance. My eye has to do a lot of work to follow the axis over to the length of each bar. My legend is very small. My text choice, Comic Sans, isn't easy to read. My color choices don't necessarily work well together, and honestly, they're a bit depressing. Here, I've simplified my chart to better tell my story. I've chosen to order my categories in chronological order. How many referrals were contacted, visited, solicited, and then associated gifts closed. I've chosen a simple but clear font. I've removed the grid lines and the axis numbers, instead choosing to add data labels to my bars to reduce the amount of work the viewer has to do to interpret this chart. I've chosen to use these colors because they're complementary to each other, and they also happen to be the school's colors for this development department. I've outlined my bars in black to make them pop a bit more. My legend is still there, but a bit larger. You could also, if preferred, list the name of each gift officer within the bar to remove the need for the legend altogether. Here, we have 3 choices, so it's minimizing the mental load we're asking our viewer to have. I hope you've learned a few tips to help you master the basics of data visualization. I want to part with some resources for you to consider as you continue to learn more. Learning from your peers is valuable. Think about connecting and networking with fellow Apra members who have particular interest in data visualization. Start or participate in an internal data working group at your organization. We have one at Johns Hopkins, and it's a great opportunity to bounce ideas off colleagues, discuss best practices, and get fresh eyes on your visualization to get valuable feedback. You may be ready to learn more. There are a few more links for additional resources in the description below, but Google is also your friend. Thank you for joining me for this Apra Byte. Happy visualizing!